Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Blaster Master 02. In the last part we fought off Garuda and Leibniz, and now it's time for us to head back to Area E so we can continue on with the main plot. Leibniz, for one MA to attack another, what he did goes against the MA series' prime directives. When a pilot defies the mission and turns the MA against non-mutants, the support droid is required to put a stop to it. By any means necessary, even if that means self-destructing. I didn't see any sign of his support droid, from what he said about you. That choker Leibniz had, it looked just like Eve's. It could be that he already lost his support droid. He said that he's not the same as me, but if I ever lost Eve, who could say that I wouldn't turn out just like him? He might be a glimpse of a future where I could not protect Eve. Actually, it's funny Jason says that because it's not a story thing, so I don't mind saying this outright. Leibniz and Jason do have a tie in that Leibniz's design is based off a prototype design for Jason in Blaster Master 01 they ended up not using. So he's not just like the Virgil in terms of a fight, he's also the Virgil in terms of the design, which I think is kind of neat. Hey, Eve, how you doing? Good. Thanks to you, I'm feeling much better. With GAIA-SOPHIA's energy output improved, Eve's internal energy supply has stabilized. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that mutant corruption is stopped. She's putting on a strong face, but the mutant cells are still taking over her body from inside. I know, Fred. We'll save Eve no matter what. With that, welcome to Area E and its main planet, Planet Stranga. We've touched down on Planet Stranga. This sector, Area E, doesn't connect directly to Sophia's sector. However, the key for Area F, our next destination, appears to be here. Eve? Are you okay? Yeah, this might be a side effect of my extended sleep mode. Or... There's something unstable on this planet. Maybe the magnetic field, or the gravity, or the atmosphere? Whatever it is, I'm getting a strange sensation, but Sophia seems fine. Your pilot suit should protect you from whatever it is, Jason. I see. Thanks, Eve. Take it easy and rest up. Yeah, I'll still support you however I can, though. Call me if you need anything. A little more about that we can get if we go talk to her directly. I was just analyzing the local plant life. It looks like many of the plants here are poisonous to mutants. Since the planet's overflowing with plants, it's as if the planet itself is poisonous to them. The poison affects their nerves and in some cases their genes. No wonder their evolutions and behavior are out of whack. I've yet to observe any effects on your health, Jason. But for the time being, let's avoid having you leave your pilot suit. That might also explain the way you're feeling as well. As it stands, part of Eve has transformed into a mutant state. Something poisonous to mutants is likely poisonous to Eve as well. It's probably too much to hope for the poison to only kill the mutant cells inside your body. We shouldn't stick around here long. Jason, don't do anything crazy, okay? This planet is very different from every other mutant-infested planet we've visited so far. I've never seen anything like this before. I'd like to properly research it someday, but for now, we gotta keep going. So, Planet Stranga, as its name would imply, is relatively strange because there are enemies here that are supersized. Enemies you've seen in prior areas just behave completely wrong here. It's sort of a giant living joke planet that is there to troll you on so many aspects. And I won't lie, it also starts with one of the hardest sections in the game. Because coming up here, we have a required little enemy mob. And I know I said I was speeding these up throughout the LP, but it's really only if it's completely old enemies we're going to be speeding it up. What we're gonna have here is some of the little bee enemies we saw back on Montage. But now they're rainbow colored, and they have a lot of health and they can do a lot of damage. They start out only spawning 2 at a time, but the further you get into this area, the more they spawn. My best recommendation, keep your distance. Use the Hexa missiles if you have the SP for it. But just jump and use either the base crusher shot or the machine gun fire you have. because keeping your distance here is preferable. If you get too close, they do start to home in on you, and that's where things get really tricky. It looks pretty easy right now, but if memory serves, I think it's a wave of 2 on the right, a wave of 2 on the left, and then they just start spawning in 4 at a time, and that can be a lot to manage considering the really high amount of health these particular enemies have. And I want to say if they're weak to anything, it's maybe the impact wave, but I've never really gone on my way to test it because this has always just been a pain in the ass fight for me. Be careful, is all I'll say at the end of the day, I guess. I won't lie, this fight more than anything else on this planet is usually the reason I go to Area D first, as this feels more like it's meant to be handled after that base difficulty-wise. On top of the fact getting those extra 2 health for the Sophia and Jason helps a lot. Yeah, as you can see, this is where things, if you're getting really antsy and where they start homing in on you, this is where this fight gets extraordinarily dangerous, so be careful. Also, I looked ahead in the video again really quick and realized I'd had this going for another minute, so let's just speed that up. Sometimes I'll do stuff like that during commentary because I realize, oh, that's flowing weirdly. So, Stranga is a little bit of a different planet, not only in terms of its visual aesthetics and all that, but also its progression. This planet isn't nearly as combat-focused for its A to B stuff as, say, Montage or L229. This is sort of the closest thing this game has to a puzzle level. Additionally, we got these plants that create water. This is also a bit of a leftover from an earlier part of the game. Originally, Planet Stranga wasn't going to be kind of like a foresty plant planet. It was going to be an underwater planet, and this is sort of the remnants of that. So you may have noticed, the Sophia can actively swim in this game. It actively does retain the dive unit it had back in 0-1. But there's a lot of cases where you're just going to need to jump out and swim in the water as Jason to get to caverns or other things. Some notable weird limitations with the water, though, especially as Jason, like you even saw a little bit there, there's a little bit of a weirdness where when you're on the top of most water formations as Jason, you can't jump out unless there's a platform like directly to your left or right. Which doesn't seem too annoying at first, but there's just something about that is a little weird to control at first, although you can ultimately use that to stay safe from enemies. So, Planet Stranga, a lot of its caverns rotate around having these little barriers you need to destroy to get past certain things, usually they look like little volcanic rocks, and having little flower petal-filled rooms. The flower petals might not look it, but they are actively treated as a different environment type that will usually have one of the weird shark enemies we've seen a couple times thus far kind of diving about in it, and we're trying to attack you. Thankfully, Blast Counter kind of nullifies any challenge that could give you. Also here, you're going to see me being incredibly reckless, but it's because I know I'll be safe from it. We've already seen that water will save Jason from a high fall that could kill him, and that includes just falling through several bodies of water like that to get back to the Sophia. It might not look comfortable, but that's pretty much completely safe. For now, we want to go through this door. There's a couple of other pathways you can see in that room, but one of them leads to a dead end anyway from memory. Because we want to get to the next room, and well, there's a reason there's a checkpoint here. Take it. What?
Flower!
A metal attacker? There's one here too?
Can you not hear me? Here we go, one more time, nice and loud. Ready? Flower!
What?
Miss, demanding a flower from someone you don't know is quite rude. Ah, you're a major buzzkill. I totally saw you. You two, like, fell from space, right?
Oh yeah, we...
I can't believe you came to attack us again. Totally lame.
Huh?
Yeah, like, in that silver, purplish, super fast ship.
A silver and purple ship? Hold on a second, that wasn't...
Like, totally no way, so totally, you know? I'm not sure they do know, miss. I'm so awesome at beating up losers like you!
She's so totally not listening to us. Time for Nora MA06 Air. This is one of the fastest boss fights in the game, even though you can damage it pretty quickly. Attack-wise, it can just straight up fire its tail at you every now and then from behind. It will use various dash attacks to try and just ram into you using a drill, but can also use that drill to knock terrain up into the air and just hit you with it, or outright impale you in some cases. Eventually, it'll drill down the flower in the center and start throwing out some gigantic explosions, but as you can see, Burn Spark, if you use it properly, can just melt this boss's HP really quickly. We aren't your enemy. Please listen to us. Nah. Nope. I'm not a loser. Miss Kana, please calm down. You're making a scene. Come on! Oh my, ever the handful she is. My humblest apologies to you. This young lady is Kana, pilot of the Nora MA-06 Air. I am her support droid, Kenwood, at your service. And this charming support animal is Yakopu. Indeed, it seems our support animals will get along quite splendidly. Now then, it is quite a coincidence that we have crossed paths. May I inquire as to what brought you here? Sure, actually. After that, we explained everything about our current situation. It seems that Kana had been attacked by another MA before we met. She then came to the conclusion that other MA pilots were enemies. I see. For the sake of Miss Eve's health, you set out on a journey. Oh yeah? That's right. If you could tell us anything you know about the access key, it would be a huge help. Hey, I totally know all about it. Really? Then please tell us. No way. Why not? You know we're not your enemies, right? No way means no way. If you, bring me 3 kinds of fruit, I might change my mind and tell you about the key. 3 kinds of fruit? Could you be a bit more specific? Jason looks like she's getting bent out of shape. Rude, I'm in a great shape. Not even a little bit bent. We should just do what she wants and find that fruit. Jeez, guess we gotta go track these things down. I'm terribly sorry. Miss Kana can be so stubborn sometimes. I know, right? She just, gets a total attitude. To obtain the fruit, you must pass through a troublesome rocky area. Please, take this part. It'll allow you to break through even solid rock. And now I get the Drill Smasher, unleash a drill for drop attack capable of destroying hard rocks. And that's something I actually recommend you actively put on another shortcut alongside Burn Spark. For now, let's get some more lore. Kana's really difficult to grasp, but Kenwood, you seem to have no problem getting along with her. Oh, not at all. She's anything but difficult to grasp. After all, it was I who grasped and uprooted her in the first place. Uprooted? Eve, as a fellow support droid, surely you can recall our mission. We find a suitable pilot for the MA, then support them, right? Correct. Unfortunately, there was no lifeform capable of piloting the MA when I arrived here. After the long journey at the end of my rope, I encountered the seed of the one you now know as Miss Kana. I unearthed her seed from the ground, and ever since then I've raised her to become a proper lady. Oh, yes, I see. I feel she still has a long way to go in that regard, but I'll be forever grateful that our paths crossed like this. Kenwood looks so happy talking about how he and Kana first met, but still, I'm so glad I was sent to Earth. For some reason, I feel that now more than ever. So while I accidentally read the Hexamissile tutorial, now I can talk about Planet Stranga and its origins. Planet Stranga is outright based on the Sunsoft game Trip World on the Game Boy, which was I think, sequel or spiritual successor to the game Gimmick on the NES. It was a more puzzle-based platformer, but notably, the main character was a rabbit named Yakopu, and the plot of that game was trying to find a flower of peace. You can see where Kana comes from in that case as well. Notably, Kenwood is original out of that trio. For that matter, I should probably mention so is Leibniz. Leibniz is the only MA pilot in the game that's not directly based off of something else, which, given their role as the Virgil, I guess sort of makes sense. I guess you could say in that regard they're kind of based off Jason, but oh well. So the Drill Smash. You press the button whenever you have it mapped to, and you consume about 10% of your SP, and then just slam either downwards or diagonally downwards, depending on whether or not you're holding left or right while you're using it. If you use it on the ground or on certain other tiles, you'll spin in place for a little bit, digging up some earth that can actively damage enemies. I think it's roughly just under 2 times the damage of the G-Crusher shot. Although if you just stack a lot of that on top of enemies in boss fights, it can do a lot of damage. With that said, the chunks you dig up are randomly thrown about, so keep that in mind. If you use it in mid-air, though, your current vertical momentum or horizontal is completely ditched, and then you just charge downward or diagonally downward for a certain amount of time, and will do the same damage on impact that you would if you used it just on the ground. I do believe the mid-air version eventually just runs out of steam and will stop, but you can chain together multiples of it to make it go on longer. Additionally, any amount of height you fall while using the mid-air version does ultimately count towards SP regeneration upon impact with the ground. compared to certain other physical abilities like the recoil jump that the Sophia has. With that said, while you're using the Drill Smasher similarly to the Burn Spark, you are completely invincible. So you can use that to your advantage. The big weakness of it compared to the Burn Spark in that regard is that there's a little bit of a pause at the end of the attack animation if you use it on the ground, where you are just kind of left open. But if you're on top of most enemies, you're probably going to be killing them anyway, so don't worry too much about that. Drill Smash has its combat utility. I do think Burn Spark, on top of most of the other Sophia's armaments, are better for that kind of thing in the long run, though. So we've already basically done the boss fight for this world. Our goal, as the plot said back there, is to find those fruit for Kana and bring them back to her. With that said, we're still going to go out of our way to, you know, activate the caverns along the way, because I like getting the pickups, and getting more health especially is very good. Admittedly, compared to my memory of 0-1 at least, the pacing of the SP pickups is a little weird in this one, in that by the time you get even, I think, your second SP pickup, you're over halfway done with the health pickups, at least with how I tend to play the game. So, like I mentioned, Stranga is a puzzle planet. There's going to be cases where you actively need to get out of the Sophia, not to just enter caverns, but to let the Sophia get captured by a plant and moved elsewhere, so then you can go elsewhere and enter other caverns from where it's been moved from. Also, we need to use the Drill Smasher like Kana could have during that boss fight on certain corkscrew-shaped plants in order to open certain paths or activate certain puzzle elements. And that's where I probably got stuck here for a little bit on my first run, because I just didn't click immediately that I could use it on the screw plants in the background, despite those being visually shown off in the boss fight. I just didn't think I could use it like that. Now, if you look at the map for Stranga, even though I think you don't have the map data yet, you'll see roughly where the 3 fruits we need are marked. But you really need to come to this cavern before you go directly to get any of them, because the power-up we get at the end of this area is key to getting, I believe, at least 2 of the 3, if not all 3. So make sure you do that, otherwise you're just not going to be able to complete the area. Also, what we just saw there is a weird artifact of how the game actively loads areas around you and how enemies are treated when they leave the screen in some cases. There are occasional places, not too many, where if an enemy leaves the screen and you immediately follow them through a door, they will be there, and you can get trapped into some cheap hits if that happens, but it's so ultimately rare that it doesn't really impact the quality of the game on the whole. This area is like one of the few places that really happens, because Stranga especially has a lot of these particular, like, I guess you could call them little barrier enemies, where they have tongues that will capture these smaller enemies, like those little robots there on the left, and unleash either one of the spinners that we've seen throughout the game thus far, or a whole barrage of tiny bug enemies. So watch out for that, don't let that happen. I'll get more into exactly why I think so next time, but I really do think this is meant to be a breather planet of sorts and meant to be sort of a lower point, because after this it's very much uphill. Repulsion upper fires a repulsion jack that launches anything that touches directly upwards. It's a spring jack. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 7, we're going to finish up our duties here on Planet Stranga before moving on elsewhere. See you guys then.